Hello and welcome back to my toy reviews. This is going to be the first one of 2023 in January, and today we are of course looking at the little fella before you, Terrorsweep. He is one of the plasma dinosaurs, and this one was released as Series 2 of the plasma dinosaurs, but in the plasma verse line it was Series 8, and this was released back in 2008. So let's hop right on into it and get into just a little bit of the history and background, because for these guys there unfortunately isn't really a lot out there. So like I had said, the plasma dinosaurs were an extension of the plasma verse line, which was an extension of the plasma dragons line, which was an extension of the Mega Bloks dragons line, which is like the big thing that they had released back in the, I believe, late 90s with their Mega Bloks dragon sets. I have a couple of the regular sets, but the plasma dinosaurs, plasma dragons, all of them are the ones that I was really interested in as a kid, and those are the ones that I made a big effort to start collecting again. The one we see before us here is Terrorsweep. He was part of, again, Series 8, which was released in 2008, but the original Plasmaverse line had come out and launched in 2005. So the little guy that we see before us is of course based on a pteranodon. They had, again, like the dragons line, which had a lot of just dragons, which are super cool looking. And then they had the dinosaurs line, which came with, you know, Allosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, and then a couple just like prehistoric animals that always get lumped in with dinosaurs, like Pteranodon, and there was also a Dimetrodon, which I am super excited to cover on here. But again, that's kind of all there is for the background on these guys. They came out, they were kind of a limited release. None of my friends were super into them at the time. I was really the only one. But I loved these guys when I was younger. I started collecting them, I think it was 2006. But all my old toys, because I was a kid and I loved to play with them, are absolutely trashed. So this is the first one I'm covering out of the new ones that I'm getting. So just before we get into the review, just a little overview again of the scale that I use here on the channel. I did do a poll on my Instagram and a lot of you guys actually liked it, which is pretty sweet. I was wondering if it bogged this channel down, but apparently no. So for the scale, we're going to look at sculpt and detail first, then the color and paint applications, and then finally the articulation in this case. We're going to total those up and divide them down by 3, and then we'll also look at the little things that this guy came with. And he came with a couple of things. But yeah, let's get right on into it. So looking here at the sculpt and details on this guy, you can see he's got some nice detail if it's not like crazy. For a little doohickey figure that came out of like the little egg and stuff, like they were meant to just be really cheap impulse buys, I think. I didn't see them that way as a kid, but now as an adult, I think that was the intention with them more than anything. But they're pretty nicely detailed, honestly, all considered. You can see here on the wings, there's some nice skin detail on there, on the front and back. We have the hands, the little chest, and the feathering features all over the chest, which starts on the neck a little bit too, but that's a little harder to make out. We have his head. Nothing crazy, just some cool sculpting on there with his little crest and everything. And his beak. Again, nothing crazy. We don't have anything going on inside other than the tongue. And the tongue is cool, and the fact that they painted it and sculpted it out a little bit is pretty cool. Looking at these feet here again, they look good. The paint on there I think is globbed on in a way that kind of masks a little bit of the detail. And of course, you don't have any dry brushing or anything like that to create any dimension, but it's not bad. I'm gonna give it a 2 just because, again, like for these little figures, it's not bad, but it's nothing groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I think 2 is a solid way to go with this one. Before we move on to the color and paint applications, I do just want to take a moment to quickly shout out one of my friends on here, Spino Dude. He's another toy reviewer. You probably know him if you look at dinosaur stuff. But he had recommended I get one of these rotating platforms for my displays just to spice them up a little bit, make them look a little bit nicer and more professional. I had previously been looking at some of the larger ones because I do have some pretty big figures, but they are very expensive, and he had recommended I just go with one of the smaller ones just to have something on there, and lo and behold, it looks really good and really increases the quality of these reviews. So again, thank you so much, Spinal Dude. Just wanted to shout him out. Check out his stuff if you like dinosaur toy reviews. He is awesome. Looking at the color and paint applications for this guy now, again, you can see the paint is not applied super carefully. I mean, just taking a quick glance over the wing, you can see there's tons of bleeding. The way that this is put in there as well. I mean, this is like ancient at this point. This is over a decade old. And you can see that a lot of the paint has chipped off in the egg, but I can vouch as somebody who collected a lot of these when I was younger, this is not something that has to do specifically with aging. This is just the type of material that they're made out of is kind of prone to this like sticking and chipping from that. A lot of it does just come off in different places. Like, let me just see. You can kind of see a couple yellow spots on the wing, although to be fair, I think I've gotten most of it off. But where it's either dripped or just stuck on there from when it was in the egg. The beak, I think, is the worst offender with this, only because it's such a prominent feature. Like, the chipping isn't so bad, but it's just enough where you definitely notice it on there. The fact that the tongue on the mouth is painted is pretty cool. The fact that they sculpted it out in there is cool as is. But the fact that, again, there's not a ton of dimension to the paint. There's just a little bit of the... I don't even know if it's dry brushing on there or if it's just that the actual color is kind of dry brushed on top of the mold of this guy. I think it might be the latter, actually. But the head doesn't have any dimension. You can see the eyes aren't even painted on there. And the feet are all just one solid color other than these kind of ugly orange nails. Like, again, it's not bad. You can see the colors are obviously inspired by some older Transformers figures, namely Swoop, obviously. But other than that, it's okay, but I'm gonna go with a 2 again. It's not bad. It's not like the worst I've ever seen, but it's far from great. So we're gonna go with a 2 for the color as well. Now moving right along onto the articulation of this guy. You can see for a little guy like this, like, the articulation's actually pretty good. You don't get a ton of range of motion, but you can move his arms around, you can move his feet around. You can get him into a couple poses, especially with his head. But he is very limited based on his construction. He's got these ball joints in his wings and legs and even in his head, but they're not double ball joints, they're not like hinged ball joints, they're not really designed to allow for a ton of movement, just enough to give you something to play with. So I'm gonna give this guy a 3. It's very, middle of the line. It's better than some of the older Mega Bloks dragons in a lot of ways, and yet in some other ways it's not as good as some of the like Fire and Ice dragons, which I am, again, super excited to cover on the channel. I have a couple of them sitting waiting for me now. But some of them are not bad, like the fact that the jaw opens is cool, but the head just gets nothing. The arms only get, this up and down, but they don't really get any in or out, so you can't do any like really dynamic poses with this guy. It's okay, and in fact, I think I'm gonna drop that down to a 2 just because of that. You can pose them, but really the posability is not why you get these guys, and if you're looking for something that you're gonna be able to do something pretty fun with as far as the articulation, you are 100% going to be disappointed, unfortunately. I think it's okay, but it's just far from great. Now, before we get into any size comparisons with this guy, I just want to take a quick look at the accessories that he comes with. And he comes with a couple things, namely is this nice little egg. The earlier ones that came in this series, especially from the first 3, I believe, were really cool. They had some translucency to them with a little bit of color, and as the series got on, you can tell that they just kind of went a little cheaper with them. These solid plastic eggs aren't bad by any means, but again, it's kind of sad seeing where they ended up because they did start so cool. But that's his first accessory. He's got a nice bright yellow egg. Usually I label them on the inside, but for him I don't think that's going to be necessary. All of the Plasmaverse creatures also came with these little cocoon plasma egg sac things. They're pretty cool, and I'm surprised that it's held up. Just as a reminder, this came out in 2008, and this is still nice and jelly and strong and stuff, and I don't have a lot of things made out of this material, but it's just not something that looks like it would hold up over time, so the fact that it's in pristine condition is really cool. Out of the packaging, you also get this little collector's card that you can clip out. I am somebody who collects so much stuff that though I would love to keep the packaging for everything, it's just not realistic, and I wind up hurting myself more trying to make space for all that empty boxes. So these are really cool to me as something that I can keep as a memento for collecting. Just has a little bit of information. Of course, it says again it's a pteranodon. Gives you a little bit of just information about pteranodons. 16 kilograms, meat eater. 16 kilograms. I'm trying to think. I don't know if that sounds right or if that sounds way too low, but whatever the case may be. It says here it's about the size of a human, which I think is about right for a pteranodon. Pteranodons were not huge animals. Some of the larger species did get big, but yeah, just a cool little thing. And finally, it comes with this cool little poster. I'm not going to use this for anything, but it is cool that it comes with it. On the inside, you can see one of the big gimmicks with these figures is that you can take them apart and combine them with other creatures in the line. And of course, they decided to do this with the creeps, and they created the absolutely most horrific abomination I can possibly think of using the zombie. Am I gonna do this? Absolutely not. I'm not gonna even attempt to do this. I don't have the zombie and also the humans I just don't particularly care for, but oh my goodness. Some of these are really cool, some of them are like this, and I wish they would have not done this. But, you know, if you like playing around with your toys, this is pretty cool. That is just about it for accessories, so let's get right into the size comparisons for this guy. So we're just going to quickly shotgun these size comparisons because, again, for the Mega Bloks figures, there isn't great comparisons to these unless you're collecting them, and then within that line, they're literally all the same size, pretty much. So here he is next to the SH Monster Arts Rodan, the Movie Monster Series Bandai Rodan, the Mega Bloks Plasma Dragon Seether, the Mega Bloks Plasma Creeps Vampire, which is another one of the arms as wings kind of figures, which again as a kid I thought were super cool. And then finally, just quickly, the Safari LTD Pteranodon, the one walking on all fours, just for another Pteranodon comparison. So as far as final score, we're gonna do a 2, 2, and then a 2, which of course divided by 3 is just 2. I'm not adding or subtracting anything for the accessories because they're fun to display with him, but they don't really add anything to it other than just a nice little background. So yeah, we're going with our first 2. That's not to take away from anything for these figures, but they're not made to be these beautiful replicas. They are just little toys. I think 2 is totally fair for this guy. I still love them, but it's not something, if you are a dinosaur collector, I really don't think you're gonna be losing your mind trying to collect all of these. I can't see that being possible unless you're like me and have these fond memories playing with Mega Bloks figures as a kid. So, Mr. Terrorsweep here is taking home a 2. Alright, so that is the 2008 Mega Bloks Plasma Dinosaurs Terrorsweep. He is our first 2 for the new year and the first review I'm doing for the new year of 2023. So, Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for checking me out. As always, subscribe, comment, let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you like or don't like something. Again, I'm pretty new to doing this, and I always like to hear your feedback. I like to improve the reviews, and I'm always happy to change things up if something does or doesn't work. Let me know if there's figures that you're interested in seeing. Again, I have a ton of stuff. If you want more Mega Bloks figures, I do have a ton of them. They're really hard to find nowadays, other than on eBay, but over the past few years, I've just been picking them up when I get the chance, and I've amassed a couple of them now. Beyond that, check me out on Instagram if you'd like. It's a Trashbug Toys. I post a tie-in post for all of our reviews here, just with like pictures of the figure and everything. But again, message me if you like toys, if you want to talk about them, if you want to ask me about any of the content, if you want to talk to me about things that you'd like to see on the channel, reach out. I'm always happy to chat with fans. Anyway, thank you so much again for joining me for this first review of the new year. Happy New Year, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.